Welcome back, everyone, to the weekly Armchair Sports Talk podcast. This is your United show. This is Devil's Advocate. I'm your host, Keane. We are here today to preview Manchester United versus Spurs in the Premier League. We will be joined by Steve McGrath, our Spurs fan, on the podcast. We will be joined by him there in a couple of minutes. So here today to talk all things Man United. We'll also, when Steve's on the pod, we'll also talk all things Spurs as well. So we'll cover both teams. We're also going to pick combined 11s on the podcast as well. So we'll be doing a combined 11 between Spurs and United tonight as well. As well as that, we're going to talk about both teams' start to the season. We're going to talk about both managers, Conte and Ten Hag, in terms of how they're dealing with both clubs and transitional periods as well. So do smash like the video, guys, and do hit that subscribe button as well. Your support is massively appreciated. And look, we will be pumping out a lot of videos between now and the World Cup. So look, really do appreciate your support. But first of all, look, before we're actually joined by Steve, I kind of just want to review the Newcastle game a couple of days ago, because obviously in a little draw in the Premier League, I had Pete Davey on from Loaded Mag the other day, and we were talking about kind of how tough this game was going to be. Obviously, I was saying from Man United perspective, how tough the game was going to be. Obviously, Newcastle in a rich vein of form come to Old Trafford. We were obviously in good form as well, but I think like that was one of our toughest tests of the season so far. And then a little draw. I think my kind of 2 cents on it is that I think the performance. I think Ten Hag coached a very good performance. So the team actually played well, especially in the second half. Thought look, we got going. We started creating chances. I think in front of goal we had kind of a bit of trouble. We didn't put our chances away. We weren't clinical enough. And look, I think if you have to look at the referee's performance as well, I think the referee, Craig Pawson, obviously Ronaldo's goal is wrongfully disallowed. Obviously the whistle was blown. And in that situation, he put the ball in the back of the net. Referee's fault for not actually seeing that they actually kicked the ball, where look, VAR is there. And VAR obviously didn't intervene. So we obviously, in that situation, he had to move on. Later on in the game, obviously Jadon Sancho got fouled, clearly fouled as well, might add as well. And yeah, look, we weren't given the Stonewall penalty, and people could talk about Man United and getting dodgy penalties, and well, look, a Stonewall penalty wasn't given. And again, you have to look at the ineptitude of VAR and the officials. And again, like I've highlighted so many times in this podcast, I truly believe that the VAR needs to be retaught in the Premier League. And I think from a perspective that with VAR, I think we need to be looking at maybe bringing in some referees from abroad. Like if you look at Bundesliga, you look at La Liga, you look at Serie A, Ligue 1, all them leagues, look, VAR seems to be used a lot more efficiently. Intervenes when it needs to intervene. Even this, like, take VAR out of the equation. The standard of refereeing in them leagues is so much better than it is in the Premier League. And we're meant to be the best league in the world. And if the Premier League is the best league in the world, I think, look, we all have to look at it and think, if we have the best players, the best managers, we have the biggest profile players, I think we also have to have the best referees. Do you know what I mean? It's one of them where you can have the best players, the best managers, the best personalities, the best pundits. We can literally have all that in the Premier League. But if we don't have the best referees, then how can we showcase, how good these players are, how good these games can actually be, and these games not being ruined by poor refereeing decisions, VAR taking, so long and to make decisions as well, and referees, not being sure. And also, if you look at all these referees have been there together for years in the Premier League, and look, they're digging each other out, in terms of digging each other out of holes when they give a poor decision. And look, I'm not just saying this from a Man United perspective, because lately we've had a couple of mishaps with referees and VAR. I think you have to look from a wider perspective. There's different games. You had the North London Derby a couple of weeks ago. You had the City game on the City Liverpool game Sunday. There's been many different. The West Ham game last weekend as well with the Antonio goal. There's so many times where the referees and VAR are it's scandalous. It really is. And I just look at it and how can we have the best league in the world, best players, best managers, and then the refereeing is so poor? I think it defeats the purpose of it being the elite league, the Premier League. It really does mystify me at the moment, and it's look again. I'm not going to sit here and fully blame the referees and VAR because, like, look again, like there's times where we didn't take our chances. Look again, like with the Rashford one, there's other times Fred didn't take didn't take a chance, and look, I think that there's still a lot to work on. I think look, we are improving as a team. Look, Ten Hag has us playing very well. I think when you look at like our defending this season, bar like if you take the first two games out of the equation and the City game, if you like analyze every other game, I think our defense has played really well. I think Ten Hag has them very organized, very coordinated, and they're doing quite well. Like I think that the system looks a lot more organized. The players are running a lot more, and it's one of them where I look at like the standards of the Premier League and standards this Man United team at the minute. I think it's so head and shoulders above last season so far. Because again, last season was just pain. It was absolute pain. And like I think for many of us being match scorers, and though many times we went to games or we watched them on telly, like if you look at the work rate last season, just wasn't there. And this season is chalk and cheese kind of compared to it. Before we actually get Steve on, Steve's going to be on in a couple of minutes, and we'll be talking Spurs as well. And when Steve does come on, I'm just going to come to a couple of comments. And Richard says, evening Richard, hope you're well, pal. Richard just said about the game the other day, he said, I've noticed a sideways passing creeping back into our midfield as of late. That needs to stop. And I think that's probably down. I understand what you're saying, Richard, about that. I think one of the things there is Eriksen being out the side in the last couple of games and having Fred in there. I think that's why that's happened. I think Bruno's kind of had I suppose, have the responsibility of being the only creative player within the team, and having like Casemiro, Fred, and Bruno. That's why I think a bit of the sideways passing has come back into it. And like, look, I think when Eriksen comes back into the side, we will see kind of more progressive passes being played. Actually, we're going to bring Eriksen up to Steve as well, because he is a Tottenham fan. They did have Eriksen in the side for a while. And just on the refereeing situation as well, Richard says, I can't pronounce our first name, so I'm not gonna try. But he says Colina is the best ref I've ever seen, and he's Italian. And also Solo is in the chat as well, and says good evening. But on that, we are going to bring Steve into the podcast. So Steve is our Tottenham fan. Just going to bring him in there. Steve, how's it going, pal? How's things?
Okay, thanks very much. And sorry for the technical difficulties.
Oh no, you're all right. Look, we all have technical difficulties. I'm forever having them. So look, you're absolutely grand. Steve, I kind of just before we go into Spurs and obviously United stuff kind of within this podcast, I was just touching on the refereeing situation and VAR this season in the Premier League. Seems to be a massive talking point throughout the season. We've seen a lot of like poor decisions being given. We've seen obviously decisions not given as well when it's been stonewalled, whether it's penalties, red cards, fouls, and stuff like that. What's been your overall kind of perspective on the I suppose the standard of refereeing in the Premier League and VAR this season, because it's come in for a hell of a lot of criticism this year?
Yeah, I guess like we were all pretty optimistic, I think, at the start of the season because of the statements that were made by the PG Mall and things like that about letting the game flow and all this kind of thing. But whilst there definitely has been an element of that, you can see there are some tackles that are being allowed and the game being stopped for. I don't think that makes up for some of the poor decisions that have been made, and like it's for me, it's just the inconsistency. Like
yeah,
you can call them poor decisions, but if it's the same decision every time, then you know what? Fair enough. Like if every team is kind of getting the same treatment, but it's the lack of consistency. Whereas like literally not even say like week on week, you're talking like game on game, like at the same time. Like, there could be 2-3 o'clock kickoffs on a Saturday, and like within minutes of each other, the same decision could be given two different ways. I also think like it's like when people say like, "Oh, just get rid of VAR, get rid of VAR." I think like VAR itself, the technology and everything like that, I think is brilliant. I think it has definitely done more good and more positive for the game than negative. But I feel the people making the decisions. I don't know how you do it, but I've always thought that it shouldn't be the Premier League referees that should be the VAR. It should be like an outside group or something along those lines, because like they're all friends, and like I don't know, is one of them going to, say like who is Simon Hooper is the ref tomorrow night for our game. Well, I'm not sure who the VAR is, but I mean if they are close, if they're in the same group of referees or whatever, like I mean, are they really going to say, listen, ball to that one,
Yeah, I think look, it's the people running it. I think it is a massive problem, and like I touched on it before you came on. I think if you look at the way VAR is like working in other leagues, you look at the Liga, you look at Bundesliga, for example, it's a lot more efficient. And like I think you made a fair point there in terms of the people who are running it. They're probably all friends. They're all like they don't really want to dig each other out. And again, like we're seeing a lot of ineptitude, and like I think what it's doing is it's kind of ruining some aspects of enjoyment for fans, whether it's in the stadium or whether it's at home when a goal is scored, or like for example, if there's a stonewall penalty or if there's a red card situation, and the referee might have made the wrong decision, and then your man in his ear, doesn't want to tell him that he's being a fucking idiot about it, like in that sense. And I think that's where there's a big discrepancy with VAR and English football at the minute. Like I was saying, and like me and Reese touched on this in a previous podcast, I'd love to see this where if we have to have the English referees still be there, then I think we should bring in the VAR from abroad. If people need to come in and they be on VAR, because like Steve, we have the best league in the world, we've the best managers, we've the best players all in the same league, but we don't have the best officials, and that kind of ruins the concept of having like the Premier League, the best league in the world. You need to have the best in class in every aspect of your league. Like you can have all the players, managers, but if you have inept referees, it kind of defeats the purpose. Kind of having the best of everything.
And I don't even know if it's ineptitude. It's just I can't put my finger on it, but like it's just something's going wrong with the people that make decisions or the way that they're coming to the conclusions that they're making. Because the governing bodies have done an awful lot in recent years in terms of trying to bring in rules and regulations, like the handball and all that, taking out an awful lot of the interpretation involved in it. But still, we're seeing like handball decisions going awry. Like I mean, like when it jumps out at me, like is the Thiago Silva one where he just batted the ball away.
Yeah.
And that was reviewed, and like I don't understand how somebody in the profession reviewed that and decided like he didn't. My mind goes back to United Arsenal. Similar situation.
Yeah, the tackle on Fernandes, yeah.
Well, no, the handball. Who was it that batted the ball away?
Yeah, the handball, yeah.
Gabriel, was it?
Yeah, Gabriel Jesus, yeah.
Gabriel Vergara, the defender. But then as well, like you just touched on it there, like the Bruno Fernandes tackle the other night. The Chilwell tackle at the weekend. And then he said, like, if I was just like, it might sound like a bias thing, but like the Emerson Royale red card against Arsenal. I mean, if that's going to be a red card, then the Chilwell one where he's like literally left the ground and gone into his stud on the ankle, and the Bruno one the other night. Now you might say that there was no intention there from Bruno to do that. That's fair enough. But in the same sense, there was no intention from Emerson Royale, I think, to do what he ended up doing. But it's a red.
Yeah, and I think that's where like the consistency is not there. Like again, if they're giving it for one, they have to give it for the other. But again, I think it just comes down to maybe some referees are just more inept than others. And like any line of work, like look, we're both in the same line of work. We're both like we see different things. Like I think like it's just like anything in life. There's probably other people probably more fit to the job than others. But we're going to talk about we're going to I suppose dive away from the referees because like look, we'd be here all night like talking about how shit they are. But I want to touch on Tottenham's game Saturday, Steve. 2-0 against Everton. We both actually previously played them kind of in Loughborough on the same week. 2-0. Obviously the game was wrapped up by a Hotspur goal at the end. Fucking sick, and I had a 1-0 Super 6. But what was your thoughts on the overall performance over 90 minutes?
Yeah, so like as I was saying, I was actually like setting off for a gig up in Dublin at the time, so I wasn't able to watch it live, and I had the experience of listening to it via radio commentary, and I was actually trying to think back. I can't even remember the last time I listened to a full game on the radio. But yeah, that was a nice little element to it, I admit. But I watched it back. I watched it back in full, actually, and like. What I will say is that like it was very very hit and miss, but definitely I feel the the switch to 3-5-2
Mm.
changed it for us, and um, I think like every Spurs fan is very very interested in seeing this 3-5-2. In fact, when Basuma came on the other day, it was a bit like he's had a couple of appearances for us, and he was a bit ropey, but maybe just what the confidence thing or whatever. But definitely on Saturday, it was probably like shades of his former self
Right,
at
well,
Brighton.
right.
And I think he's the perfect complement then to Højbjerg and Bentancur, because Højbjerg, like if you see like for Denmark, he plays kind of a more advanced role,
Yeah, more
and like,
role, yeah.
and he gets goals, he gets assists in that position. So I think it kind of allows him that little bit more freedom just to even be 5-10 yards further up the field. Um, but as well as that, at the weekend, it was probably one of our kind of more like I suppose like free flowing games, if that makes sense. We like, an awful lot of the time so far this year we've kind of um, just not being negative. I won't say negative, but we've been a little bit too like careful, play it safe. Whereas on Saturday against Everton, we kind of went at them. Like a lot of the time, Spurs will have only maybe 50% of possession over a game, whereas on Saturday we had like 60 odd, with like 21 shots, 7 on target. We limited Everton to like no shots on target at all. And in fact, in the second half, they had no shots. So it was a really like a tidy performance from Spurs, and like Everton caused us very little trouble. So they had two big chances, I'll admit, in the first half, but they came
Yeah,
from
they did, yeah.
two defensive errors. Or they had a bit more quality that should have been tucked away. In fairness, so I'm not overlooking the fact that they had two big chances, but then at the same time, I mean, like when we got our chances, we took them.
Yeah, I think especially when I was watching the game live Saturday, I think one thing that really helped Spurs having the extra man in midfield. Because I think sometimes, like from watching Spurs, and obviously I haven't watched them as much as you this season, but from a couple of games I've watched, I think with the 3-4-3, what's going to happen to Spurs is they're getting outnumbered in midfield,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the bigger games. And when they brought Basuma in, obviously, unfortunately due to an injury, but when he came in, you could see Kane and Son were closer to each other. You had the extra man kind of going forward as well, and then kind of the midfield battles you weren't getting outnumbered, especially if you look back at the Arsenal game when they had the extra man in midfield.
So
It kind
I
of
think as well, like the surprise I think on Saturday was that Lampard went with the wing back system and three central defenders. Like that caught Conte out, I'd say. Like, nobody would have seen him do that, and then like for Lampard to just go like formation for formation. So them having the 3-man midfield, I think in the first half, whilst again, like I said, they didn't trouble us too much. Um, I think that was a factor. So then when we went with three in our midfield, any of the trouble that was giving us was was gone. Even if you watched for our third goal, sorry, our second goal, where Kane is on the ball and he has the time to stand there and wait, and then like Bentancur is behind him, and he turns around to Bentancur and tells him like go down the wing, and like Bentancur, our central midfielder, makes the run down the wing, or almost like a wing, like as an overlap, to then play that ball in for Højbjerg to tuck it away. You know, and in fairness, like I think that goal as well. If you watch it back, Højbjerg on the edge of the box with the ball, and Son makes this brilliant run around him into space on the left, and 2 Everton defenders, and a third one. So 2 went to Son, and then the third one looked there, and then that gives Højbjerg the chance then to just touch it onto his shooting foot to tuck it in. So, but again, it was because we had that extra man in midfield that allowed Bentancur to run an overlap almost as a winger, and then allowed for Højbjerg to be standing on the edge of the box to receive the ball from him. But in saying that, all of the indications are that Conte is still going to play his preferred 3-4-3 tomorrow.
I'd prefer that now if he went 3-4-3 better than 3-5-2 tomorrow. I think, especially if we've the extra man in midfield, especially with the reintroduction of Scott McTominay, I think that could be a big thing for us tomorrow. Or equally if Christian Eriksen comes back as well, because I think, look, if we look at Tottenham's back 5 or back 3, whatever way you want to kind of paint it, like I think having Eriksen there will be handy because, as I mentioned literally before he came on, I think if we just have Fernandes as our own creative player, we get figured out very quickly if he's the only one in there, whereas Eriksen can help like break lines and he can receive the ball on half turn, he can keep us ticking, whereas if we have Fred in there, as if you would have seen Sunday, he gives away the ball rashly, and it's a problem that we do have. But I kind of want to get
Eriksen will drop. Like the difference I noticed is that I obviously from watching Eriksen for years, what I would prefer him in a side to Fernandes is Fernandes stays kind of above the halfway line an awful lot. Whereas like Eriksen will come back to play and he'll almost be playing in like the position of a 6, maybe a bit deeper, because he knows that he has that range and he knows that he has that the passing ability to get it through a couple of players and to play like a kind of a through ball or around the corner ball. Whereas Bruno, it doesn't have that range of passing accuracy when it goes longer. His first time play and his vision, say like in the maybe 10 to 20 yard range, is great. But Eriksen has that accuracy and vision from longer.
Yeah, definitely. I think he's sharper as well, like in terms of the passing, and he is more accurate. He does the simple passes better than Fernandes. One thing I'll say is that whereas Fernandes hasn't been as productive this season, I think one thing we've seen slightly, he's reined it in a bit slightly, compared to last year where he was literally just playing volleyball literally with the ball. It was like hot potato last season. He's reined it in a small bit compared to last season, but it'll be interesting to see what happens, especially if Spurs go, let's say, a 2-man midfield. Like, does he play Eriksen and Fernandes in there like we have done against Arsenal or Liverpool, or like we've seen against City where we played a kind of more attacking midfield, we got exposed as well. So it'll be interesting to see if Ten Hag does go pragmatic. Look, we will discuss both of our starting 11 predictions at the end, and consequently we're going to try to agree on the combined 11. Me and Steve don't really agree on much in life in general, lads, so this could be very, very interesting when it comes to our combined 11 selections. But I kind of want to touch on United just for a moment, Steve, just obviously to get your kind of outsider's perspective, because we always have United fans on here talking on this podcast, but I kind of want to get your perspective on kind of Erik Ten Hag. Obviously, like, look, both of our clubs are in a similar position at the minute where we're both going through kind of, I suppose, a rebuilding process on both sides. Obviously, if you look at Spurs, you've director of football, all that type of stuff in. Joe Conte's in a bit longer. You're a bit ahead of us in terms of a rebuilding process. What have you made of Ten Hag's start so far and kind of what he's brought to the club?
Like, one of the things that's kind of stood out for me is the way he's just like, he's not treated Cristiano Ronaldo as anyone special. Like, he's treated him as just a member of the squad, and he's not buying into or falling for the like, oh, Ronaldo, it's Ronaldo,
Yeah.
Like he took him off at the weekend. Ronaldo had a good result, and he was asked about it in the conference, and he said, "Well, he has to show me that he deserves to stay on."
Yeah.
And I think that for me kind of is a good measure of him as a manager, and I think that would really go down well with the squad, because I think maybe under Ollie that, or even under Ralph, but particularly under Ollie, I think that like Ronaldo like got more game time than he probably maybe deserved at times.
Yeah.
And like, if you're in the squad, like, and you're busting your arse in training all week, and then like just Ronaldo's being picked because he's Ronaldo. You even think back to say when you were playing underage or anything like that, like, and there was always someone who was like a really, really, really good player of the team, and they'd just be on the team sheet regardless of what they didn't train or. So
Yeah.
that I think that would be a good reflection on the squad. I mean, you might look, you might look at United and say, okay, well, like they're in fifth, but that's, I mean, I think that's a decent. I mean, like your record is very good. I mean, you're in fifth, like you've only you have a game in hand, I think,
Yeah.
and so I mean, it's looking promising for you already this season. I think like he'll definitely need 2, if not 3 more windows to actually have his squad. You know, he's doing a bit of reshuffling as well. You probably haven't offloaded as well as you should have had. Same as us. We've bought smart and we brought in some good additions, but we've still not like shaken off some of the likes of I think Don Blake as well. So all over, So
Yeah.
but I think Ten Hag could be the manager in 3 years' time still.
I think I've liked a couple of aspects of what he's brought in. I think the big thing for me is after that Brentford result, the fact he made the lads run, because Brentford outran us by 10k in that game, which is scandalous, by the way. And like Ten Hag took accountability himself and ran himself into the ground after that, along with the players. I think accountability is a massive thing. And I think what that shows to the squad is he's willing to go into the trenches with them. Whereas I think, look, if we had previous managers, they probably wouldn't have done that. If you look at maybe Rangnick, for example, Rangnick just came out in the press conference and slated everybody. Whereas, look, I loved when he slated the Glazers, all right, like that was fine. But like if you look at everything else, you're slating people for the sake of it, trying to mask his own failures. With him with Austria now, he's look at his record, it's shocking. But like if you look, I think that was massive in terms of getting the squad on side. And look, if you look at the running stats at United now compared to that game, like look, the team work a lot harder compared to then. I think I like what he's done in terms of like the Ronaldo situation. I think he's managed that very well. I look at how he's managed Harry Maguire, and like Harry Maguire's 80 million centre half club captain, and after them 2 games dropped him. Under Solskjaer, that wouldn't have happened 100%. And Maguire would have stayed in the team regardless. I think how he's kind of set his first team partnership in Varane and Martinez is good. I like how he's dealt with Shaw and Malacia's situation as well. Like Shaw had a stinker the first 2 games, brought Malacia in, but then once Malacia started underperforming, he brings Shaw back in. He's not leaving people resting their laurels. And from what it looks like from looking at it, it looks like he doesn't have any favourites. Like if you look at Donny van de Beek, Steve, we were all talking in the chat thinking, geez, Donny van de Beek's going to get a heap of games under 10, like Bruno's going to be dropped. That's nearly what we all thought. Like Donny van de Beek got nominated for the fucking Ballon d'Or under Ten Hag. Like, and if you look at how like he's not even gone into the team, like that screams to me that Ten Hag's obviously picking players on merit, what they're doing in training, as opposed to the like reputation or kind of what they've done for the manager previously. So I think that's something I've liked about it. And I think, look, you're right. Like we're not going to see a full-fledged Ten Hag team, I think, until maybe 2 or 3 years' time, because again, there's a lot of deadwood at the club, and then also he has to buy his own players in. Then he has to implement that style of play, because if you look how United have played this season, yes, it's been better than last season. Yes, they've ran more, but they're like if you look at the way we played, it's still not like the blueprint of what an Eric Ten Hag team looks like. And I think that's where, look, it's going to take time. Like you can't have Scott McTominay and Fred playing total football in midfield. That's just lunacy. That's not going to happen.
Like. Yeah, it's kind of a mashup at the moment of like a few elements of what he wants and a few elements of what he has to make do with.
Yeah, like it's like a chef in the kitchen. Like he can only have a certain amount of ingredients to work with. Like I had to bring up that Pochettino analogy there because you're on the pod, but it's one of them where he has some of the tools, but not all of them at the minute. And I think like look, from hearing around the club at the minute, like after the World Cup in January, we don't have the money to spend in January, so it looks like we are in for a big summer. And if you look at like the likes of David De Gea and potentially Ronaldo leaving the club, there's about 800 grand worth of wages and just 2 players alone potentially leaving in the summer. So like there could be a massive rebuild even again next summer in terms of where we are from a transfers perspective. But I think again a lot rides on where we finish this season or what we do in Europa League, because if we have a season where we're in Europa League again next year, like it could be a disaster. We might have to sell to buy next summer. It could get to that state. Looking at the finances around the club. But like in terms of like obviously both clubs are in a transitional period at the moment. Obviously, you had Mourinho and Pochettino, as well. Like, and then you've brought in Conte, and the club seems from the outside looking in.
You've forgotten the big man there as well, Nuno.
Yeah, he had Nuno as well. Yeah, I forgot about him because he's
only there. Wouldn't you? Yeah.
Yeah, like he's only there for a few weeks, really. Like so, yeah. I forgot about him, but then again, how could I fucking forget with all the moaning you did about him in them couple of weeks?
And of course, how could you forget the fact that it was United game that got us Antonio Conte?
Yeah, El Sacchio, last season, yeah. But like the club looks like from the outside looking in, Steve, looks like it's a lot more kind of stable, kind of state at the moment, and the fans really seem to be behind Antonio Conte. What do you make of him so far? And do you think is he gonna like historically he's always been at clubs for like a similar to Jose Mourinho kind of a short term perspective? But do you think is he in it for the long haul this season and beyond?
Currently, as we speak, all of the rumblings from like the likes of Alistair Gold and the really well connected Spurs journalists, all the rumblings are that he's interested in sitting down and talking contract. Also, so is Keane, and I think those two are interlinked. I believe that like one will stay if the other stays. So that's some really, really good news. We've also this week obviously the news that we're close to signing the naming rights for the stadium. Both Google and Amazon are currently trying to battle it out. Apparently a world record 25 million a year deal. So I mean, if that happens, that's covering the repayments on the stadium every year, which then means the club then can focus on putting money into the squad. Again, just like we need to shake off a few of the fringe players that we have. Like like we tried to sort out loans that this season. Like Harry Winks went to Sampdoria, he's trained twice for them. He hasn't even kicked the ball. He's been injured since. Looks like he's going to be coming back to us in January. Dombele doing fairly well, to be honest, at Napoli. He's kind of picked up an awful lot. He made a very bad first impression there. So I think we need to like just suck it up and just recoup our losses whatever way we can with those, and then focus on the income. We made the Cristiano Ronaldo deal permanent. And we've also obviously got Kulusevski, who's still on loan.
Is he still loan? Have we sorted that out yet?
Yeah, it becomes an obligation after some point this season, anyway. But again, that's not massive money either. Like Bentancur was only 18 million, and just the deals like that we've done in recent times that show that we kind of have our heads screwed on that way.
Yeah, if you look at them deals compared to a couple of years ago when you're splashing out the Celso and fucking Dembele for fucking
but even look, I know Conte really likes him, but like we paid £30 million for Ryan Sessegnon now.
Yeah.
While he was in the last year of his contract at a championship club. So that's huge amount of money there. So look, I think Spurs fans as a whole are happier than they've been in a long time. Hugely behind the manager, and he's calling on the fans in every game as well to get behind him and get behind the players. And I know, like he lost his friend, like the coach Jean-Pierre Petroni, who passed away a couple of weeks ago, and I think he saw the gestures from the club and from the fans. Sort of an account THFC flags, and they crowdfunded these big Tifo style flags to have before games or whatever. And then what they did before the Frankfurt game they just had only one flag, and it was the one for Del Piero, and it was really, really nice touch. So I think he sees those things. You have to remember as well. I mean, he's doing the Jose thing where he's living in a hotel. Conte.
Oh yeah, GC done that. Jose done that at United, yeah.
And his family are still back in Italy, like so. That could be difficult enough too. But I think he just, I don't know. Something tells me that he was kind of looking for somewhere or something that he could commit to. And this might be it, you know.
Yeah, like I look at him like when I seen him come into Spurs, I was thinking like, geez, it might be like 2 or 3 year thing. He'll win him a trophy or two, and then maybe Pochettino might come back, type of thing. I thought that may happen now, but it looks things if that, the shitty Scouser gets sacked from Villa, we might see Pochettino there, which would be, I think that'd be mental if that happened, by the way. But
Yeah.
he seems to like, he's galvanizing your club, he's galvanizing the fans, and I think, like, I think he made it like he's the type of manager who would make his demands very clear to your board, and like
Yeah.
if they don't give him what he wants, he'll fuck off. Like, look, he done that at Inter Milan. He fell out with Chelsea as well. Like, there was talks of him like being coming to United last year. Geez, I'd say under the Glazers he'd leave after a week. He'd literally get up and he'd walk. Joe, like I don't think he'd be able to put up with our club. But like I look at him, he's the perfect manager for Spurs right now. Especially he look like they still like I think you have Romero in there. I think he's top class by the way. But I think what he's done with players like Eric Dyer and Ben Davies, who I seen you on Twitter religiously for weeks, like giving out about them. They're actually decent players for Spurs now. Like he's improved them where it looked like they may end up being a surplus to requirements. I look how he's improved players like that. Similarly to how Ten Hag at our side has improved players like McTominay and Luke Shaw. Like I look at how Conte's done that, and he's done very well. And look, his signings have been quite good as well. Like Højbjerg, I know he's a Josie signing, but like players like Lewski, Bentancur, bringing in Richarlison, them types of signings are really good signings. And again, they're not big superstar signings. They're players who've come in and improved a lot. The fact, like I said at the start of the season and Talk the League, the fact that Spurs have depth up front now compared to previous seasons where it was just Son and Kane, and then look, you might have Llorente there, you might have Lucas Moore, and now it's you've Kulusevski, you've Richarlison, you've Harry Kane, Heung-min Son. Like there's a bit of depth there now. Like if one of them did get injured, there's someone to come in. Look, I know Mora's still there, as well. Like he can do a job on his day. So there is a lot of good things going for Spurs, and again, you've good young players as well. Now, like I'd be interested to see kind of how Conte really progresses in Europe with Spurs this season. So I know in the group it's a bit tough at the minute for you, but I'd be interested to see how he gets on in the knockout stages, the Champions League. So if and when Spurs do progress there, because obviously, like, look, it's well documented.
We're top of the group there now.
Sorry,
we're top of that group at the moment. So, like, I guess from our point of view, like, it's gone well. Yeah, I mean, like, I know that the game against Sporting was a bit of a disaster, but I mean, like, other than that, I mean, we're doing well. The draw away to Frankfurt, I think, was a good one, and then like, we need to beat it at home. Really good. So we're in a comfortable position that way, and we're playing Sporting at home again next, like, So, look, I think the European hoodoo thing will probably strike, and I don't see us like winning the Champions League. But I think Premier League wise, I mean, I think we're kind of going like under the radar in terms of
third in the Premier League so far.
Level of points for City is the big one. Where I think like I mean, yes, okay, fair enough. You say they've scored like 10 or I think it's 10 more goals than us. But I mean,
half of them were against United, by the way. So
we've only conceded 10 goals in the 10 games we played. Same as City, same as Arsenal as well, actually. So like, we have a really good defense, and I think it's that mentality at the moment at Spurs is like, if you can't win, you better not lose.
Yeah, and I think that the fact there was games under previous managers where if you didn't win, you'd lose the games, and where you're still you're still getting them draws. Like, look, I'm looking at the table at the minute. Like, you have 7 wins, 2 draws, 1 loss. If you look at them 2 draws, previous seasons they might end up being a loss, and you're
I
kind of,
think so, yeah. West Ham
see,
one in particular, I think.
yeah, like that's a big one. Like, you look at the games previously, that's always like kind of a banana skin for Spurs. And even the Arsenal game, I know you lost, but there was stages that game where maybe if the red card doesn't happen, could Spurs get back into it? Arsenal have a tendency sometimes to crumble in the big
And
games.
the mistake from Lloris for the goal as well. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
I mean like that. Like, so like I think like the 3-1 scoreline, like makes it look like we were like completely like dominated in the game. But like, on reflection, if you look at what went on in the game, I feel as if like it could have been better for us. You look, Arsenal had something like 60% possession overall, but we would have 10-9 for a half an hour game, and like going in 1-1 at half time, Spurs fans were fairly confident, and then for like Lloris to have that howler, and then
then
like
a red card,
just like
like
yeah, so certainly we were deflated by that, and the red card really just kind of that was the end of it. So look, I wasn't too disheartened by it. I mean, we've won twice at the Emirates in 30 years or something like so.
it's
But
always a tough one. Like,
yeah, so overall, I think like we're doing very well. I mean, like Kane has 9 goals in 10 games. Like any other year, everyone would be like, "Oh my God, 9 goals in 10 games! He is on fire." But at the
it's
moment,
just
people are
there's a
going,
certain
"Oh,
Norwegian,
yeah,
yeah, there's a certain man just causing havoc in the Premier League right now. But don't say that to Liverpool fans, because they'll be like, oh, he's not, and couldn't get a goal against Joe Gomez. Look, we're not going to go there with that
yeah."
one. But you've actually brought me into a good segue, because obviously Harry Kane is a striker on form at the minute. I've actually thrown him into my fantasy this week with Haaland not there. Just, you never know. He always seems to like a goal against United. But we're actually gonna go into combined 11s now. I text Steve this morning, lads, and I said, look, what formation are we gonna go to try make this agreeable as possible? Now, usually in a combined 11, I'd let the opposition pick theirs and I pick mine, and that's it. But I'm going to make this a bit different. We're going to have to try to agree on a team. So this could go very good, or this could go very bad.
Well, listen, there's only 12 minutes left here, so this might not go well at all.
I think with 12 minutes, we'll get it done in 12 minutes, hopefully. But look, we'll start with goalkeeper. We've decided on 3-5-2 formation. Now, look, funny enough, Spurs might play this, and I know for a fact United definitely won't be playing this tomorrow. But we said we agree in this formation because it'll probably be the most way to kind of agree on certain positions. But goalkeeper, we've a couple of choices. Obviously, David De Gea, Hugo Lloris, and then we've Dubravka, Heaton. Who's your second choice?
Big Fraser Forster.
Fraser Forster. Oh yeah, fuck, I forgot he even signed for him. Look, I think we both collectively already agreed on the goalkeeper, Hugo Lloris. Obviously, Spurs. He did have the mistake against Arsenal, but I think if you look at David De Gea's couple of mistakes he's made this season, I think Hugo does take this one.
Yeah, but
Usually,
Hugo's also made a couple of incredible saves in other games and that as well. Like so,
yeah,
like one of the saves in that in Europe last week, I think was unbelievable. So definitely,
yeah,
would put Hugo in there. And he finished number 10 in the Yashin Trophy for the
and
Ballon
the
d'Or
goalkeeper
yesterday.
Ballon d'Or yesterday.
Yeah.
First time in ages I haven't seen David De Gea, and that just shows where we're at the minute. And usually he'd be up there, but yeah, wasn't to be. But right, I think we'll go with the 3 centre backs first, because I think
I'd
this may.
say we probably are in agreement on this as well.
Yeah, 3 centre backs. So I'm going to give my 3, and then you can give your 3, and then we can see where we go.
Yeah.
So my 3 centre backs, I've Christopher Romero, Lisandro Martinez, and Rafael Varane. They'd be my 3 centre halves. Who are your 3?
Okay, let's move on to the wing backs.
Oh, they're your 3.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck, lovely. This is great. This is a great start. So we've agreed on the goalkeepers and the wing backs.
Listen, I will add a little caveat there to say that there's a hugely honourable mention in there for Eric Dyer.
Eric Dyer, yeah.
I like Mark, like Varane. I would say that Varane for me has been quite underwhelming.
Yeah, compared to what we were expecting him to come in.
What everyone expected. I think Martinez. I really like him. I like his aggression, and I think it's like his fellow countrymen. On the other side,
It's some shithouse like. I think
yeah,
if you look at that back three, Steve, you have the ball playing ability of Lisandro Martinez and his aggressiveness. You have Romero, who's really good. He's good in the air and he's a shithouse. He's a brick wall.
and Romero is very very good at like starting off their attacks. Like not a lot of people give him that credit, and like there's sometimes where you see and like Romero could be like the furthest up the field for us. He's almost like an attacking centre back, you know. So I think like him and Martinez together, like probably a recipe for disaster. Like card wise, like you know, Sean Maroney making
Sean Maroney's dream.
Yeah.
Sean Maroney's dream for Pep Builder.
But yeah, and look, I'm putting Varane in there over Eric Dyer, but
It's an honourable mention. He's having a good season, but if I look at Varane's the way since he's come in, he's played very well. Take the City game out of it, which it's against Erling fucking Haaland, and he got injured by the way in that game. But Varane has been brilliant this season and probably one of our best players. And look, if you have them three, I think they complement each other quite well. Wing backs, I'm interested to see who your wing back is. Give me your right wing back first.
My right wing back, Ivan Perisic.
He's my left wing back here. Fuck. Right. Right. My right wing back is Diogo Dalot. The reason why I went with this on my side is if I look at Spurs right wing backs this season, they've been kind of chopped and changed. Whereas Doherty, if had Royale, Perisic has been put out there. Whereas I think Dalot has been playing there all season. Now, take the first 2 games aside, I think he's done reasonably okay. He's been consistent enough for us. I think
the reason Dalot as a wing back, that was the only thing I was kind of. I actually had my first draft of the team. I had Perisic left wing back and Dalot right wing back, and then I was like, I don't know, like Dalot as a wing back.
I think he'd be better because he wouldn't have as much defensive responsibility, and he could put Varane as right side as centre back as well. Like I think it could work. You've gone Perisic right wing back, and I've gone fucking Dalot right wing back. This is good. We're going to move to left wing back, and we can maybe decide on the right wing back then. My left wing back was actually Perisic on the left hand side. Brilliant player. Look, I definitely have him in there. I didn't want him at United a couple of years ago, but yeah, look, he was a brilliant player. And look, he's done quite well at left wing back for Spurs or wherever he's been playing. Even left wing, I seen him there the other day as well. Who was your left wing back?
Shaw.
Oh fuck!
I think Luke Shaw as a wing back.
He's done it well for England, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think Luke Shaw as a wing back is actually a different type of player. He gets found out a little bit, I think, defensively as a left back, but as left wing back, what I like about Shaw is I think his final ball is really, really, really good. His decision making with his final ball is very good. He's not very wasteful. Like he doesn't like to waste. Do you know what I mean? He'll take a second to have a look as opposed to just getting into a good crossing position, just whipping one in. So I went with that.
Do you know what? The only reason why I went the other way around, and I'll be honest, is because Shaw's only come back in the last couple of games. Now, albeit he's actually been exceptional in them last couple of games. Do you know what? I'll go with your wing back selection because I think, if I look at the basis, if you look at the last couple of games, I think Shaw has been very good. Now, look, we'll probably see a fucking compilation of Steve later on with fucking Shaw getting roasted by Son or something tomorrow, and fucking they'll be in the group chat tomorrow. But yeah, look, we'll go with that one. We'll go Perisic on the right and Shaw on the left. If we're talking crosses, we're like basically Liverpool. We're fucking spamming them in there with them 2 wing backs. Now the next one is midfield 3, which I think we're going to both kind of disagree or maybe agree. I don't know. Give me your. Obviously, we're playing a 3-5-2, so give me your double pivot there.
So I really, really am torn about this, and I don't know. Like I said, I think the midfield is the one where I was the most indecisive about. But I'll just give you my three.
Yeah, give me your three. Yeah,
So my three are Højbjerg, Casemiro, and Bentancur.
I have
Now,
two. I have
yeah,
two out of your
I
three.
know, I know, you have Ericsson over Bentancur without even checking. And
Yeah, I have
the
Ericsson in
reason,
there.
yeah, the reason, and I can tell you the reason why that is because I feel, and a lot of Spurs fans feel, is that Rodrigo Bentancur just doesn't get the acclaim, or like, he's one of our most consistent players. He covers he is second and highest, I think, in the league for distance covered at 13 kilometers in a game. Like I said, in the 86th minute of the game the other day, he was doing the overlap down the wing to play the ball in for Højbjerg. Um, so I feel like fans of other clubs
What that
uh,
go unnoticed. Yeah,
don't see the value in Bentancur's game, but Spurs fans see like almost everything kind of goes through him. He's the one that kind of comes deep to receive the ball,
yeah,
and he's so his positioning is just brilliant. He's always there to receive a ball. Um, his his passing as well. I think he likes to make sure that his pass is going to be successful. Yeah, he has something. I think I know it's like 87 or 90, almost 90% passing accuracy over the season. Um, but like one thing he needs to bring to the game a little more is probably like his goal contributions.
yeah. Like this one for me, usually I'd have Fernandez in the 10, but if I look on form this season, he's only played well in a couple of games. Whereas I think
Mm.
the Brentford game aside and City, I think I look at Ericsson's ability to control a game from midfield, keep it ticking, like whereas he mightn't have the running stats of a Bentancur,
Yeah,
and don't make them last minute runs, but like what I see in Ericsson is his creativity, his leadership in midfield. He's vastly experienced, his set pieces as well. And I know we both have Perisic and Luke Shaw on our team, so we already got two very good crosses the ball for corner kicks in there as well. Well, Harry Kane might take a few corners if we have him up front. Very Hodgson seemed to like that tactic, but yeah, I look at Ericsson's ability to just create chances, his passing range. And if we're looking at a pivot of Casemiro and Højbjerg, who would probably do more of the defensive side of the game, I think you need to have Ericsson in there to keep to create, and not only
yeah.
that, his shooting is unbelievable as well. Like
But
that's
that's I honestly say, I think that's the decision that was like the hard. I mean, like Casemiro and Højbjerg, I would think that anybody would pick those two. Um, but then it was the third midfielder that I had the most kind of deciding to do, and I could, like I said to you, I knew straight away the difference you had was that you had Ericsson over Bentancur. I feel that Bentancur has played better for Spurs this season than Ericsson has played for United. But I think
how
I
he's
don't
improved
know.
our midfield.
But
Yeah,
yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was trying to not to be like dismissive or like to be kind of like make it sound like I was trying to talk shit about United. But like I think it's because United weren't used to having like that kind of that passing quality in your midfield or that brain taking over in your midfield for so long that when everything came in, United fans were like, "Oh my God, this is a revelation."
it's probably it's
Whereas it's what you've
haven't
been
seen a
missing for
player like him
years anyway.
since Scholes. Like I haven't seen a player like him make our midfield take over since Paul Scholes. Now, obviously, we had Pogba, but he was more of a ball carrier and kind of a goal scorer in midfield. Fernandez is more of a goal scorer in midfield as well, but I haven't seen like a midfielder since Scholes left the club that can dictate a game like Ericsson can. I think
And
that's
like I
where
said,
like
Ericsson does that thing where he drops to maybe like I don't know, say halfway between say the 80-yard box and centre circle, and he'll receive the ball and he just rather than like receiving the ball and knocking it back, he'll actually receive the ball, touch it, bring it round to face forward, and
yeah.
he'll look up the field for a forward pass, which I think like United don't have in Fred, don't have in McTominay. Um, Pogba arguably did, but again, he was he would probably get the ball in those positions. He was
He
more
takes too
likely.
many touches and then
Yeah,
lose
he
it.
was more likely to carry it up
Yeah,
past the halfway line to then try and get a pass that way and then to receive it back. Whereas Ericsson is happy to receive the ball in those positions and like lay it off to someone else, like say Fernandez was in the 10 role then to then create something from that, you know. So
yeah.
look, I wouldn't be opposed to the Casemiro, Højbjerg, Ericsson midfield.
Do you know what? I think we'll go with that one because I feel like the front two is where we're going to disagree. I feel like we might have an all Spurs on your side, but we'll see. We'll see. And what we'll do is we'll actually leave the midfield one up to the comments, and we'll put in a poll later on, and we'll see who'll have. I think that's the fairest way to do it because I'm probably not going to budge on Ericsson if I be honest.
Yeah,
Um,
and I don't see United fans saying anything other than Ericsson. But again, I think it's just because that like nobody hears enough about Bentancur.
yeah,
Do you know? I think like even like from outside Spurs circle, um, rival fans will have heard of Højbjerg's impact in games and things like that, but they won't have heard of Bentancur because it just goes under the radar. Because he just again, it's just he does what a central midfielder is supposed to do.
yeah,
And
all
they
different
do
facets.
really well. Yeah. So yeah,
We leave that one up to the comment section and Twitter as well. We will sort that out after the show. Front two, I'm going to give my two, and then Steve will give his two. I went Kane and Rashford. I think Son's like he's a brilliant player. Only reason why I didn't have Son in there is he did score the hat trick against Leicester, and look, that's brilliant. But look, the reason why I have Rashford in there is his goals in the big games this season. Obviously Liverpool and Arsenal games. He's a big game player. He always when it matters, he does show up. And I look at his improvement this season compared to last year has been fucking chalk and cheese. Like his United career looked over at the end of last season. He wasn't running, he wasn't taking players on. Whereas this year, he's scoring goals and he's getting assists as well. I went, and obviously Harry Kane speaks for itself. Like, look, at the end of the day, he's one of the top goal scorers in the league. Rashford got Player of the Month as well, so that's my argument for Rashford in there beside Kane.
Kane and Son.
Kane and Son. I think we have to leave this one. I like Son. I really like him.
I like Rashford, but I just think like Son is just a far better player than him. I think Son like has yes, okay, this season he hasn't lit it up like, but like last year, like he scored 23 non-penalty goals. You know, that in itself was a brilliant feat. He was very lucky enough to grab another hat trick during the weekend against Frankfurt. Like that again, he's the volley like was incredible. Like that finish was so good. And even again, like I'd say, like on against Everton, like he wasn't on the score sheet, admittedly, but at the same time, like he did an awful lot. He brought a lot into the game, and I think he's what's really strange, but what's eluding him at the moment is something that like was always one of his strongest points, and that was like his first touch.
Yeah.
First touch used to run away from, but he was very, very good against Everton, and I think like look, tomorrow, like, I'd be kind of maybe hoping that tomorrow like, that he found his feet a little against Everton. He got a couple of goals midweek in Europe, and that like tomorrow could be his time.
Yeah. Hope it's not, but I'll give you Kane and Son because you gave me Ericsson. Like you
I
gave me
mean,
Ericsson on that one.
Son still has 5 goal contributions in 10 games. Do you know what I mean? That's not like anyway like shabby at all. Like you know.
Yeah. I think look, he probably all around he's a bit better player than Rashford. I just looked at Rashford's improvement from last season.
Yeah,
Obviously,
yeah.
whereas maybe Son has like he's been decent, but he hasn't been as good as last year. Do you know, there's the pros and cons of both. But I do
And
because
Rashford is nailed on the score tomorrow night, by the way.
yeah. Well, look, we'll see. We'll see because like again, depends where he plays. If he plays up top against a back three, probably not. Plays off the left, and like let's say potentially if it's Doherty or Emerson Royale, maybe he might get a bit of joy out there. But we will
No,
see on
Emerson
that.
suspended, sure.
Oh, he's suspended, so it will be Doherty. hopefully Doherty plays the way he played against Scotland. Let's just leave that one there. Look, quick. So that's the team. So we went Hugo Lloris, Perisic right wing back. Then we went Varane, Romero, Martinez, Shaw. Midfield three, we went Casemiro, Højbjerg, Eriksen, and then Kane and Son up top. Let us know, guys, if you do agree with that. But Steve, just quickly, your starting 11 for tomorrow.
So this is going to be really interesting because, like I said, with the injuries that we have, we're very light in options for that second winger. So, like, Lucas is just back from a long-term injury. Brian Hill is showing signs that there's a player there. He needs to be physically strong enough and he's very, very light. I just something's telling me that he's going to play Perisic as a winger. I think it's going to be Kane, Son, Perisic.
Yeah.
And I think the rest of it, look, I think it will be like our team at this stage is quite predictable. So I think it is Hugo on goal, Romero, Dyer, Davies, Bentancur, Højbjerg, Doherty, and Sessegnon, and then I think he'll actually go with the Kane, Son, Perisic.
Perisic could actually, especially if Dalot pushes up a bit more tomorrow, Perisic's delivery into the Kane and Son could be fucking frightening. Tomorrow, I think that's where the game actually could be won and lost, is actually on that left-hand side. What's United's right. Tomorrow, especially if Anthony doesn't track back, we've seen where he's been actually very clinical going forward. Tracking back, he hasn't been great.
Yeah, he offers very little protection to the fullbacks, which is like one of the key elements, I think, of our 3-4-3. Is even though our wing backs are all very attacking, you'll still see our wingers coming back and helping them and looking for the ball a bit shorter. So that'll be interesting to see that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that'll be key tomorrow, especially if, like, again, if it's Sessegnon and Perisic, it could be overloads there where Dalot could be 2 against 1, potentially tomorrow. I'll go my 11, my start 11 very quickly. I'll go De Gea and net. I'll go Dalot, Varane, Martinez, Shaw. Depending on Eriksen's fit, I reckon it'll be Casemiro, Eriksen, Bruno. If not, if Eriksen isn't fully ready to go, like say he has late fitness test tomorrow, it'll be Casemiro, McTominay, Bruno, which I think with the work rate of Spurs midfield might be necessarily a bad thing if that's the...
Yeah, I actually think, and I genuinely do think that he'd be better with McTominay than Eriksen. Definitely starting. Yeah. Like say, if Eriksen's there as an option off the bench, I'd say that, but I would absolutely have, if I was a United fan, or say me as a Spurs fan, if I see Eriksen there in that starting midfield tomorrow, I'm a bit more optimistic.
Yeah, I think from a defensive point of view, as we've seen the City game, like if we played Eriksen and Bruno in there, defensively we could get caught. Like again, I know McTominay was left on his own in the City game, but it could be the exact opposite. Casemiro could be left in, like Joe, especially if there's a situation where it's like Bissouma and Højbjerg both busting forward, or or Bentancur making them late runs, he could actually be left on his own. So that'll probably be United's midfield 3, and then up front. Martial hasn't trained; he won't be playing. Simon Stone said that today. That's not going to happen. So I reckon it'll be Anthony, it'll be Ronaldo up top, and it'll be Rashford off the left. I really wish Martial was playing this game because I feel like his movement would be very crucial, especially against Spurs back 3, and him bringing players into play. Obviously, he's no Lamella there this time. Thank fuck for that. But yeah, like I'd look at that front 3. I think that's probably our best front 3 at the minute without Martial there. Obviously, Jadon Sancho. I think like if you look at the weekend against Newcastle, you can't play him and Anthony in the same team because they both do the same thing. They both come to the ball.
They both don't do the same things as well, which is I think the more important thing is that like you can't. Both of them are almost like luxury players in that sense.
Yeah.
Like if they don't have that defensive work rate, and if you don't have that on both wings, I think that you're in trouble.
We would be in trouble. Whereas I think if we play like Anthony on the right and then you play Rashford off the left, like whereas on our kind of right hand side, though we might have a bit of a problem, but consequently on Spurs right hand side, Rashford, could cause massive problems there as well. We've seen him do it in the past against Spurs, so it's one of them. And look, Ronaldo's Ronaldo. Big game, like he scored against Spurs in both games last season, and he has a good record against them. Like if there's any night for him to turn it on, Old Trafford under the lights, he potentially could do it tomorrow. But like that's the 11 I think it will be. But you never go Ten Hag. You never know. Like he done in the fucking Liverpool game, he might throw us a curveball and throw Elanga into the front three just for his work rate against Spurs wing backs, which might necessarily actually be a bad thing. In that regard. But look, there's our 11s. Look, what we do is just before we wrap up, and we just give our quick score prediction for tomorrow's show. Not tomorrow's show, tomorrow's game. Steve, can you give us your score prediction for tomorrow's game?
I hate playing United at Old Trafford. I barred that 6-1, which was just an anomaly, a freak result. But in saying that, Conte in his press conference said, like, last time we played at Old Trafford, we lost to Cristiano Ronaldo, not to United. United were very poor that day.
Yeah, literally just Ronaldo and Fred.
Just brilliance from Ronaldo to just that will to want to win the game and grab the hat trick. In saying that, I'd never put my team down to lose, so I'm going to say 2-2.
2-2.
2-2. I think Ronaldo Rashford for United, and I'm going to say Son and there's just something telling me about Perisic tomorrow night.
Do you know what? Because all the links he's had with United down the years probably will happen. He's like the winger Wesley Sneijder in terms of our summer transfer windows. I'll go 2-1. I never, again, like you, I never go our team down to lose. I just think we do need a big win. Like if you look at this week, we've Newcastle, Spurs, and Chelsea in the 1 week. I do think we need a win going into Stamford Bridge.
Newcastle on Sunday as well.
Yeah, that was a draw, which we should have won that game. Again, like, look, we're not going to get into the fucking ineptitude of some referees and stuff, but I just think we do need 3 points, and I think it'd be a statement going into Stamford Bridge on Saturday. And we do need that win, and there's no way. Like, I just can't face Evan and fucking Sean if they fucking beat us on the weekend. So we do need at least a win and a fucking draw at Stamford Bridge this week, at least. I'm going to go 2-1, and similarly enough, I'm actually going to go both Ronaldo and Rashford as well. Because again, I think Ronaldo likes a goal against Spurs, and Rashford just loves a goal against the Big Six, whichever fucking one of the teams it is. So they both like a goal against Spurs and Big Six teams. So hopefully they can both shine tomorrow. But we will wrap it up there. And thanks everyone for listening in this evening, and who's listening on the replay as well. Don't forget to smash the like button on the video and do subscribe as well. We will be back Friday night, 8:15. We have Evan on alongside Mark Biggs. Them two are just going to wind each other up for an hour. So if you want to see two people that slag each other for an hour, do watch that show. And they will talk about football as well. So do check that out as well. And the basketball podcast will be back on Friday as well, and also Reese's Wrestling podcast Saturday as well, and sometime Saturday afternoon. But thanks very much everyone tuning in. Hope you have all a good evening, and look, let's hope for our sake United get the 3 points, and also best luck to Steve as well as the Tottenham fan coming on as well. Hopefully it's a good game, and hopefully Liverpool will drop more points this week. And get back down to earth.
Agree on that.
Yeah, we that's something we both collectively agree on tonight. But thanks very much everyone for watching, and we'll see you later.